and welcome to Turning Point. Tonight's guest is Ryan Morland. Well, I'm delighted this evening to welcome our guest, who is Ryan Morland, who's been part of the Ararat family for quite a while now. And tonight we're going to learn a bit more about Ryan's life and the music. Well, 3 songs in particular. It's very hard to do this, but the 3 pieces of music that moves you, Ryan, and which in one way or another illustrates your life, the soundtrack of your years, if you like. So welcome, Ryan. And well, I wonder, without giving the game away about your first song, do you want to tell us, well, begin with your story, where you'd like to begin, and tell us about you.
Well, my name's Ryan. I came from I say culturally Christian background. I was christened, grew up in rural Herefordshire, lovely countryside area. Was always sort of went to like the harvest festivals and things. Were always like a highlight growing up. And as a child, I always liked sort of nature and classical music, things that were quite gentle and that harkened to a simpler time. And I think that's where my first song comes in. Is where it's not really a song, it's sort of instrumental. You'll probably recognise it as the tune to Land of Hope and Glory, but for me, its significance comes from it's part of the instrumental work of Gustav Holst in his Planet Suite. There's one of the symphonies is about Jupiter, and it appears right in the middle. So you've got quite an exciting, bombastic start, and then in the middle it sort of goes really sort of quiet, goes into this melody, and then it picks up again. And there's something about that rhythm, I think it's something, it really is reflected in my life to date, in that I have moments of absolute activity, loads going on, but then I just need that quiet moment in the middle just to take stock and move on.
Well, we'll come to that now, Ryan. We'll listen to the music. You mentioned rural Herefordshire. So did you grow up on a farm? It sounds like you were very close to the countryside.
Yes, yeah. I didn't grow up on a farm, but we lived right next door to a farm.
All right.
So we look outside our windows, and at lambing time, and we'd see the sheep. You know, grew up with the rhythms of nature. I'd quite often disappear for long walks up. There's some old paths near me, and I'd go for like long walks and sit by the stream, or there's an old quarry that's basically gone to nature and is really sort of nice over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's sort of the area I grew up. So living in Cardiff is a bit of a bit different.
But you retain that love for the outdoors, for the earth, for nature, and animals.
Yeah, and I think that was the thing that hurt the most when things didn't work out in Llandrindod because of the job. Because I loved being out in the middle of nowhere, but then the reality of living out in the middle of nowhere when you don't have a car.
Yes.
I had to think practically, realistically, and that's how I ended up moving to Cardiff a few years ago.
Okay. So I'm piecing together a few fragments here, Ryan. So you grew up in rural Herefordshire, and so your education, schooling, everything was there. Then I know you went to university at some point.
Yeah, I insisted. I was the only one in my family to do this. I insisted it had to be a Welsh uni. So in my undergraduate in Swansea.
Right.
And then my postgraduate, I did distance learning, but that was out of Aberystwyth. So that was archive administration. And I did that while working for Herefordshire Council. So
yes,
bar Swansea, before Cardiff,
yes,
I really didn't live anywhere other than Herefordshire.
Wow.
Or Powys, because it was just easy.
And I know you touched on Llandrindod. You lived there for a while before settling in Cardiff.
Yes.
And which is how we've come to know you, because obviously our rats in Cardiff are not in Llandrindod.
Exactly, yeah. And there's something about Baptist churches that of all the churches I've been to, as I'll touch on later, the fellowship, the warmth, the hospitality, it's not quite the same in other types of churches. And that's not saying they're not godly people, they're not good people in their own individual ways, but unfortunately my experience hasn't always been as positive as it has been. Like the previous church I felt really part of was also a Baptist church, and that was up in Llandrindod.
Yes. Well, Ryan, that's great. Let's listen to your first song, which is, it sounds like it's Land of Hope and Glory, with a kind of segue of Holst Jupiter in the middle as well. So let's enjoy that. Well, that was, I don't think I've ever heard that before, Ryan, that particular version of either of those pieces of music. So thank you for sharing that with us. So we come now to, you know, we've kind of left you run about your late teens, 20s. I think that's where
Mm.
the first part of the conversation was. We're now going to, in the build up to the second song you've chosen, talk about, well, yeah, just what happened next. What happened next to Ryan? So
Yeah,
take up the story.
in my sort of 20s, I kind of was a bit lost. I didn't really know what my place was in the world. I was searching for a lot. I got involved in a lot of spiritualism, Buddhism, you name. I even had a spell I was involved with the Mormons, but you know, least said on that, the better. But yeah, so I had all that sort of almost like soul searching and trying to find meaning in life, and not quite accepting who I am, you know, who I was. You know, like it took me till I was 30 to come out as gay, for example. So you can see there's probably a lot of soul searching, a lot of searching for meaning in life, and feeling like I don't quite fit the mold because I didn't fit stereotypes of what it is to be a man, you know. So yeah, I was struggling with a lot of that, and I was also not really understanding my place in the world.
Yes.
And then when I did find the church, it started out quite well, but then I had a few bad experiences. And one of the songs I suggested, whether we play that one or not, I'm not sure. It's quite an angry song because some of those churches did hurt me, and I did have a suicide attempt in 2018. I was at the time attending a Catholic church, and it was very fundamentalist. I'd come out of an evangelical church that was very fundamentalist. And of course, coming out as gay at that point,
yes,
it was perfect storm, unfortunately,
wow.
for my mental health going down. So although it was a song I suggested, I understand if it's not played because at the time I felt quite hurt and betrayed.
Yes.
And following on from that, I also then went back into depression. I've always struggled with cycles of depression,
yes,
and anxiety, and that's where the other song I suggested, which may be the one that's played, it's by Sarah McLachlan. It's Full of Grace, and I first heard it when I was 16. It was in a Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode.
Oh, wow.
It
takes it back a few years.
Yeah, it stuck with me, and every time I hear the song, it's almost like there's something, almost like a lamentation in my soul, because I can resonate with it so clearly. It speaks a lot about depression,
yes,
about letting go, and it's. But then there's that slight hope that at the end, recently when I've been listening to it, it's almost like it's whispered full of grace.
yes.
And in my brain, that almost like triggers. Well, you've got the grace of Jesus.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, even though she didn't write it with that purpose in mind,
yes,
it spoke to me in that way, that it was like, well, even in the darkest times, even if it's just whispered, His grace is there.
Right, you wow. So thank you for being so open so candid with us. So you've talked about immense amount of soul searching, that spiritual quest, which has taken it into all kinds of different avenues and paths, looking for God in all kinds of places. But also combined with coming out as gay, I think you said at the age of 30, which is an immensely courageous thing to do.
It might have even been 32.
32.
Just done the maths in my head.
Well, that takes a lot of bravery and courage, and did that feel like a very quite a lonely thing to do? Were you relieved, but when he did actually announce it?
I think I had instant regrets. At the time I was going to an evangelical church in Cardiff, which I won't name for obvious reasons. And the pastor of the church, because I came out on Facebook, took me to one side and said, I wouldn't have done that if I were you. So I instantly felt guilty and remorseful. So although I had a lot of support from people, like family,
yes,
it was almost like, okay, well, what I'd invested in as a community isn't.
No.
There wasn't the support from that.
No. No, that must have been horrible.
Yeah.
Right. Must have been horrible.
It did come across like they were prepared to forgive me for trying out the Catholic Church, but the gay thing was a step too far. Was how I was left feeling.
Yeah. Oh dear. Well, it's great having you now, Ryan. We're delighted. You feel at home. That's wonderful. Well, look, let's listen to your next song. I think it's going to be Sarah McLachlan, actually, Ryan. You got into a bit of a role with talking about grace at that point. So listen to that as well. So we'll listen to Ryan's next song, which is by Sarah McLachlan.
The winter is cold and bitter. It's chill us to the bone. We haven't seen the sun for weeks. Too long, too far from home. Feel just like I'm sinking, and I crawl for solid ground. Pulled down by the undertow. Never thought I could feel so low. Oh, darkness, I feel like letting go. If all of the strength and all of the courage come and live free from this place, I know I can love you much better than this. Full of grace, my love. Better this way, I say. Haven't seen this place before. Everything we say and do hurts us all more. It's just that we stay too long in the same old I feel
Well, Ryan, this brings us to our, well, the third song, the final song, actually. These little programs rattle along at quite a speed. So that middle section was a dynamic part of your life, right? You talked at length about your spiritual journey. You talked very openly about your sexuality and coming out as gay, and how there was some support from friends and family, but you weren't exactly embraced by the community spiritual community you were part of at the time. But you also talked very openly about your struggle with mental health issues. So again, bless you for that. Incredibly brave of you to speak like this. So we come to the build up to your third song, and I wonder where you're going to take us this part of your journey.
Yeah, well, this is a song that it's only a few years old, but throughout all those events, that whirlwind I just took you through, it's been a constant. It's something that every time I hear it, I hear the first few chords, and I can't help but sing along. And it's one of those, a bit like Sarah McLachlan resonates when I'm lamenting. This song resonates with almost like that need for hope. Hold on a sec.
It's very nice.
You can edit this bit out.
Oh, no, I rather like that. What is it, your clock?
Yes.
Was it the angels singing?
Sorry, where was I?
You were talking about, so whereas Sarah McLachlan's song, the second one, is you use that to lament, you find it a lamenting kind of song. There's this one, the one you're coming up to, I think kind of gives you a bit of joy, gives you a bit of hope.
Yeah, a bit of hope, it's, and that it's that I'm not alone in only imagining, because I've never seen these things. I've never, there's never a physical sign that we will get. Okay, there are some that claim that there are signs, but I've never experienced them. But the song I Can Reimagine really just speaks to that. I have never seen it, but I want to believe. To quote that 90s cliche from Mulder and Scully, the X-Files. I want to believe, and
the truth is out there, Ryan.
Yes.
Yes.
But I want to believe in God, not
yes.
not the other thing. And it's strange how, it's an example of something quite recent where I've meandered again. Like during lockdown, I was isolated. I started being introspective, and I read around a lot of New Age philosophies, and it led me back to the Psalms. And there's something quite profound about the Psalms, that when you're in a dark place and you don't have the headspace for theology and all the baggage that comes with that, the Psalms are a nice basic sort of way of just speaking to the soul.
Yes.
And some will lament with you, others will rejoice, others will encourage, as well as teach in many ways. And it's strange how God allows us to go on those journeys, and He forgives us for not always walking the straight line. There was a church I was involved in the past who referred to your faith journey as sticking on the straight and narrow path. And of course, I was always forever beating myself up because I follow the straight and narrow path for a bit, and then I sort of see something in the bushes and go, "Ooh, what's that?" but I always seem to come back to the same path eventually.
Well, we're all the same, Ryan. We're all the same.
So I can only imagine what heaven's going to be like at the end of the day, and
yes.
it's that hope I hope that I just keep coming back to it.
Yes. Now, Ryan, before we listen to your final song, I can only imagine. I've asked a question of pretty much everybody who's done my music, which is a piece of imagination, really. So, and it's a difficult question to ask, but what would, if you were to meet Ryan, aged 8, coming up the stairs, and you're going down it, what would you have any words of advice for your younger self, or words of warning, or what would you like to say to little Ryan?
I think just be yourself. That you know you are what God made you. You are glorious in your own right. Just be yourself, and it'll be all right.
Yes.
Don't try to be what you think you should be.
Yes. Yes.
I think that would be the only thing, the biggest thing. And that'll probably be very profound for the
little 8-year-old Ryan. Yes. Yeah. Well, I'm sure he'll appreciate it. It's the kind of thing we'd all wish we'd heard when we were that age or a bit older. A bit of life, a bit of soul advice, a bit of encouragement. So let's listen to your final song, Ryan, which is I Can Only Imagine.
I can only imagine what it will be like when I walk by your side. I can only imagine what my eyes will see when your face is before me. I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? To my knees or will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine when that day comes, when I find myself standing in the sun. I can only imagine when all I would do is forever worship you. I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? To my knees, or will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. Yeah, surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? All in all. worship you. I can only imagine.
Well, thank you, Ryan. It's been lovely chatting with you this evening. And again, you know, it's lovely to hear you speak. It's lovely to hear your story. Above everybody, thank you for being so open about yourself, your struggles, the things you've had to deal with and face, for your authenticity as a person. Thank you for that. And I think I almost want to say sorry on behalf of the church for the horrible experiences you've had, particularly around that time when you came out as gay, and you know, I know what it's like. Those churches can be so harsh and judgmental and unsafe places. So sorry that you had to go through all of that.
Yeah, but you know, just as a thing, I'm aware what I went through is tame compared to because of my involvement with the gathering. I've heard stories that make me realise that although it was bad what I went through, compared to a lot of people, they've been through worse.
Yes. Anyway, bless you, Ryan. It's fab having you around. Hopefully the day will come when we can actually meet all together in a room somewhere.
Yeah.
Some point when this lockdown is over. But bless you, Ryan, and thank you for sharing your music with us and your life with us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.